Hey guys, Bob from RetroRGB here, doing an unboxing of the Nintendo AVS from RetroUSB. Wow, it's neat. Something actually comes with instructions and paperwork. It's usually these days it's just whatever you can. Something on a PDF or even on a website, if there's instructions at all. So here's the back of the box. Another instruction booklet that's just like a NES instruction booklet. That's pretty cool. Here's the AVS itself, so it'll work with Nintendo and Famicom games. Power and reset are exactly like on an actual NES. And then back, it's for the Famicom expansion port, a USB port, and an HDMI out. I even like the contours on the bottom, so it's just like Nintendo. It also comes with HDMI cable and just a USB port, because I guess this is how it charges. And a USB adapter. Cool. Well, let's plug this sucker in and give it a try. Alright, before we fire this up, I realized there was actually two more things that were in the box that I didn't see. I really don't know what they are, but so far everything's been interesting. Oh, so this is that Nintendo USB stick. Can I get that in focus? So that's pretty awesome. I talked about that in the podcast a few weeks ago. And just another really cool flyer and some that talk about the launch games. And it looks like they actually did send a launch game along with it. Also nicely packaged. So it comes in a clear NES style casing, which is really cool. It's neat. And then AVS launch series, 12 seconds. Okay, so I figured we should try starting it with a game that everybody should be totally familiar with, Contra. The way you insert the Nintendo games is kind of like the original toasters, so you gotta slide it in, and there's no guide for it, so you kind of have to feel around until the cartridge goes in, and then it kind of just pops in. So it's not bad, it's a little getting used to, but other than that, let's just power it on. And as you can see, it starts at a launch menu, not directly to the game. So I guess I'll just go through all the different options and see what we have. So, scoreboard, and I believe this is so people could connect it to a computer and you could actually upload your high scores for certain games to different websites that host these things, which is kind of neat. Video options. Let's go back to that last. Input options. So this should just be the different toggle buttons, cheats, and then turbo on and off. I'm not really sure what autoplay is, to be honest with you. I'll have to look that up in the manual. And then cheat codes. So I have Contra in there, and it seems like it already has a bunch of cheat codes listed, which is really, really awesome. I would not have expected that at all. And then start cart. So then we'll just go to video options. So NTSC or PAL, scan lines on or off. Left side show, I think that's for sometimes there's games that kind of show the flickering on the left side of the image, which was there because most of the original developers knew that CRTs had overscan, so no one would ever have seen it until you start using it in a full aspect ratio setting like this. It's probably the same for extra sprites, and that should be expansion volume for the Famicom expansion audio. I'll have to look that up. But the ones that you want to pay attention to is pixel aspect and vertical border. So as you can see in the screen, you could actually change the size and shape of it, but you don't really want to. I think vertical border is to cut off things on the top and the bottom that have extra, much like the overscan for the left side. I would always leave that off. Pixel aspect is good in the middle, because if you put it off-centered, you're going to get shimmering, and the best way to actually test that is Contra. The My Life in Gaming guys are the ones that pointed that out. So it's 4 from either side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 is in the middle. And then when you go all the way back and forth either way, you could stretch it for the full width of a 16:9, but don't do that. That's really ugly. I'm not really sure why anybody would want anything else other than in the middle, but I'll show 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll show how it's supposed to be, and then I'll go back and just show what it would be like when you put it the other way. So when I start running, pay attention to the rocks, and that there's a smooth, it's smooth left to right. There's no shimmering across them at all. One other kind of neat feature is that you could actually use this with an HD CRT. I'm using it through a Sony BVM and an HDMI to HD SDI converter, but I also tested it with an HDMI to component, and that also worked fine. There's a bunch of consumer-grade Sony TVs that I knew about that were great, widescreen 720p CRTs, and they also, you know, it would look great. You're not going to get the scan lines that you would get on a 240p TV, but it still looks pretty clear. And one of the neat things that I found out is you could still use the Nintendo 3D glasses with this. So not many games supported it, but they will actually work through a converter and a CRT. What do you think? Is this a good look for me? So next, I wanted to test its Famicom expansion audio capabilities against a few other methods. So I have an original Famicom here that's been modded with Tim's NES-RGB board with the sound upgrade. So this should be the most perfect, most accurate way of detecting the original sound and how it was supposed to actually sound with those games. And then I have the test that everybody seems to like to use, Castlevania 3, the Japanese version. And then I also have an original Famicom disk system and the original Legend of Zelda. So just by putting on side A, you'll be able to hear the original Zelda soundtrack. So I'm going to compare the AVS, the original Famicom, as well as the high-def NES Kevtris solution, just to see what the differences are. Here's how the Famicom disk system fits into the AVS. It's a bit of a tight squeeze in back with the cable sticking out, but it's awesome that it still works. So as you can see, even the expansion audio stuff sounds really good. I could release the waves if anybody wants, just ask in the comments, and I could put the whole things up for each one of the recordings that I made. But, I mean, you pretty much get the impressions just by listening to that. It's very accurate. Overall, I've only had about a day to really look at the AVS, but I gotta say, for under $200, there's really not much to say wrong about this thing. I mean, you know, of course, RGB out would have been nice, but nothing wrong with 720p. I would have liked to be able to go through the menus while the game was running. That way I could kind of change video options in real time and see, but, you know, for the price, that's certainly not a hindrance to me. The only problem I had was that there was a loud audio screeching sound coming maybe every 20 seconds, and it was worse through my stereo, probably because the stereo was louder, but I couldn't get it to record through the capture card. So it was two different TVs and a stereo that it happened to, but the stereo was connected through the TV, so maybe that was the issue anyway. But I'm really not sure what the problem was, and I haven't heard anybody else report that issue. So it could be a bum cable, it could be something with my setup, I'm not really sure, but that's really it. I mean, other than that, it's a really capable machine, and I guess, you know, only time will tell if how accurate the FPGA chip inside is, but I mean, I couldn't really notice anything. So, you know, just for a short 24-hour review, I'd have to say for the price, you really can't go wrong with it. I mean, even if in the future there's something better comes out or something different, I mean, for the price, where are you going to find an HDMI solution that's just completed, ready to go? So, as always, any comments would be appreciated. I'll have the link to the page on my website where all this stuff is, so you could look at any of the direct pictures or anything like that. And thanks for watching. Talk to you next time.